back to Lehigh River Subdivision. I'm Ian, and today we're going to be doing a road making video. So the first step in road making is you're going to need your high-vis yellow. You want to be safe. You don't want to get hit by those crazy drivers out there. Next thing, I'm going to be doing the road work. You guys are going to be watching. Anyone knows that in America, roads don't get built unless you got 10 guys standing on their shovels. So I'm going to need you guys to go out and grab your shovels from your garage and shed and stand on it, lean on it while I build this road, or it won't get done. So all joking aside, we're going to build the sub base for the road in this video. It's going to be a two-part series. This is going to be part one. I'm going to take you through and show you how I make my forms, how I built the road up with plaster, and then top coated it with drywall and pulled the forms off. And that's going to conclude part one. And then in part two, we will work on painting and the striping of the road. So with that being said, let's get into building a road. So here I am working on the road. So the road is going through this span right here. So as you can see, I had this cardstock. You've seen in the layout update, I had cardstock laid out. Well, I fine-tuned the cardstock. What I did was Google searched what is the width of a lane. So an end scale 10 feet is 3/4 of an inch, which would be about what a lane on a highway is. So if you add 3/4 and 3/4, you get 1.5 inches for 2 lanes. And then you got to figure on your shoulder. So this is somewhere around like maybe 1 3/4 to compensate for the shoulders. So I cut these out and laid them here because I knew I wanted these are straight pieces. And I knew I wanted my road to curve underneath the viaduct instead of just being straight. Because in real life, the road does kind of veer off to the right after it goes through the arches, and same with the stream. So the road kind of follows the stream, and I'm keeping it that way. So what I did here in the middle was I took one of these smaller pieces and I just marked lines on each side, dots, and I just hand drew that by eye to get the curve in there. So I'm going to take these pieces off here and I'm going to show you that is the road. Like I said in the layout update, this is still getting buffed out, but I'm starting in the back here to get some of this scene started so I can move on. So I want to do the road out of plaster. And I came up with the thought that if I put something on this line and on this line, it's like 1/4 inch high, I can just mix up my plaster and fill in between and then pull them off. Almost like if you were forming concrete sidewalks, you'd put a form up, put your concrete in, and once it sets up, you pull your forms off and you got beautiful straight edges. Well, I was trying to think of an idea, and JerrySateriale recommended this foam board. It's 3/16 of an inch. So I ran to the Dollar General and picked this up. And as you can see, I took 4, well I made 4 so far. I come to 1/4 inch, and all I'm going to do is take them and dab the hot glue on them. I have the low temp, and I'll form it all the way around this line, and once that's done, I can mix my plaster, fill in, let that set up, and pull these back off. So that's how I am going to do this road. I've never done roads, so we're going to see how this ends up. So I'm going to stop the video here, and we'll come back after these are glued in, and we'll show you what that looks like. Okay, we're going to put the plaster in between the forms we made. So for that, I have my mixing container, an old gallon jug that I beat out all the old stuff and keep using it. A credit card to apply it, and water, and plaster au Paris. So these are the things we're going to be using to put the plaster in for the road. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and put the camera in the tripod so I can show you spreading it between our forms. And I'm going to go ahead and mix up a batch of plaster Paris off screen. Okay, I got what appears to be a good runny mix. Not too runny, but spreadable. I'm going to put it onto the credit card and go ahead and spread through here. Hopefully I don't block the camera too much. So if I come in here closer, you can see how nicely that smooths in and gives you a nice level, smooth surface for my road. And if you look over here, I came short on this end, and I'll blend that in because I do have to buff out this side yet, like I talked about in the last layout update. So this is just to show you before we go into the next step. I'll probably sand this and hit it with a small coat of spackle to smooth in any really bad imperfections that may show up. But I don't see too many. Plaster sets up really quick and starts to drag, so you got to be quick with it. Is one little tip. Okay, you can see the plaster has set up in here in between the forms. I'm going to go ahead and just put a thin coat of drywall mud over top to finish coat it, and then it should be ready to remove the forms and some paint. So just like our last step, I'm going to load up the card with some mud and then go ahead and go through here and smooth out the drywall mud. And if we look in here, you can see how nice and smooth that made it. And by doing that, going over the plaster, the drywall mud will not crack out. So you can see if I come down, just how smooth and level the road is. So I'm going to let this dry up, and then I'm going to cut along the edges of the foam I used for the form and the plaster and drywall mud. That way it doesn't break when I peel the forms off. So that will be the next step. I'm just going to take this X-Acto knife now. This is, I have one that I use for carving plaster, and this is that one. So I'm just going to run it between the form and the plaster road base. So as you can see, the road, you can start to see the shape of the road there. We got the nice base, nice smooth surface. I'm going to go ahead and clean this area up so you can get a better look at it. Okay, I went ahead and cleaned up in here, and you can see how the edge is really nice and straight. There's the road going back through. We got a nice even road base. I'm going to come up over the viaduct here, and we'll take a look straight down. You can see how nice those edges came out. And take a look at it from the side here. And we'll look at it from down here And that's pretty, I'm really happy with the results of doing it this way. This is going to conclude part 1. I do have to build out the front here, as I mentioned. That's why I left these 2 forms in place, so I can just smooth right into that and blend it. Part 2, we're going to start painting here in the back. But before I can start that, I have to go back and watch Robert at the Flying Crow's painting, because I really liked his technique when he did it on his live stream. And I think I'm going to go with that method to paint the road. So stay tuned for part 2. It may be a little bit, but this will conclude part 1 on getting the road base in place. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you down the tracks.